You are watching the Fayetteville Government Channel. Up next, full coverage of the latest City of Fayetteville Ward meeting. Ward meetings are held at various times by City Council members to interact with and receive feedback from the residents of their ward.
Yeah. We want to get started off with a round of introductions.
Great.
My name is Alan Long. I'm the Ward 4 Position 2 representative.
And I'm Rhonda Adams, Ward 4 Position 1.
I'm Jeff Cole with Transportation Division.
Keith Shreve with Transportation Division.
Deborah Boddington, a resident of Ward 4 for 30 years.
I'm Phil Moeller, and I'm a longtime resident of Ward 4, but I've just been outranked.
Oh, I thought you were going to say longer than that.
Beverly Schaefer, Ward 4 resident.
James McCartney, Ward 4 resident.
Tom Overby, Ward 4 resident.
Archie Schaefer, Ward 4 resident. Steve Gahagans, the director of the University Police Department.
Mike Johnson, University Facilities, and a Ward 2 resident.
Gary Smith, Transit and Parking.
Paul Johnson, University Housing.
Jay Honeycutt, Facilities Management Director of the Campus Planning Office.
Kimberly Miller, Ward 4 resident.
Eric Goodsteed, Ward 4. This is Ward 4 and friends. we consider you a friend. We'll let you
We're missing Beth Presley, a good friend of Ward 4. So we're glad you all are here. We'll try to try to honor your time as best we can. We're going to spend about 20 minutes on each topic, and Mike said earlier today he'd be happy for the sidewalks to go first so that university folks could hear a little bit of this, so thank you for that. And we'll let you guys take it away, talk a little bit about sidewalks and where the money's coming from and why all the talk about sidewalks now and how we determine in each of our wards how we get to the sidewalk extension. Thank you.
And Keith and I are here tonight to hopefully convey to you all and get some feedback input on our 2014 proposed sidewalk improvement project. Sidewalk construction is one of the groups that Keith and I are essentially counterparts within Transportation Division, but this is one of the groups, sidewalk construction is one of the groups he manages, so he's going to talk us through the proposed plan.
Okay. What we have for the handout tonight, the top section is sidewalks that have been requested from citizens of the area or aldermen within the city. And rough cost estimate to do the project. There's several, as you can see, several projects totaling close to $800,000 for this is just Ward 4. We have similar lists, for Wards 1, 2, and 3, which surpass current funding and our ability to build them in a timely manner. So what we're looking at is input to get some priority rankings on these projects. If you want to look at the list on the first column, it says year. The ones with an R in front of them, like the first one's R 2014, we've had a request for that one. And on down the list, you see one that has just 2013. That project was actually on this year's list. It hasn't been completed yet. And on down to the bottom of the list, Salem Road is the same situation. I don't know if you want to go through these one by one. Do you have any questions? I mean, we could, like Berry Street from Lonnie to Sang, and also from Sang to work over into a private street. Those two sections, approximately 1,600 feet of sidewalk. There is no sidewalks on Berry Street at this point in time. There would be a project we'd have to do some drainage work to make an area to build a sidewalk. Broles Avenue from Persimmon south to the existing sidewalk down by the sewer plant. This would connect the sidewalks all the way from Wellington Drive to Farmington. The one Cleveland Street, Sang to Hall. This is just some spot repair areas. As you can see, the distance is only like 250 feet. So we're just doing some minor repairs on Cleveland Street. Doubles Springs Road, Abilene to Greens Chapel. This would fill in this section, and it completes sidewalk from Weddington Drive into the new subdivision there at Greens Chapel. 46th Street, Weddington, got the existing new development, new sidewalk, same situation there. Just fills in a gap. Lonnie Avenue, Weddington, Aura, kind of ties in with the Berry Street project and the Aura Drive project, all tied together in that neighborhood. And we put a line in for maintenance repairs. We have many calls come in throughout the year for small 4 or 5 feet, 10 feet, little areas that just need a little bit of patchwork, so this gives us money to do those repairs. Markham Road, Cross Avenue to Razorback. This is tie on the end of where we're working on currently to make the connection all the way from Weddington Drive through to Razorback Road.
Question here. There already is a sidewalk between Palmer and Razorback. Is this just from Palmer on over to Cross?
More like, probably, yes, sir. Yes, sir, there is a sidewalk on the south side.
Right.
From Palmer to Razorback. We're looking at putting this one on the north side from Palmer to Cross.
Okay.
What's the reason for the north side?
Well, it was just one we picked. It could be put on the south side if the residents want it. It's one of these that we're kind of looking at. On the north side, there's some mature trees and some utilities we'll have to work around. On the south side, there's some landscaping and some plantings that we'd have to work around. So,
I mean, if it was on the north side, people coming up Markham up to Palmer would have to cross to get on the sidewalk, and then when they get up the hill to Pratt Place Development, they would have to cross back again to the south side. And it seems to me to make a lot more sense to continue the entire sidewalk on the south side.
That's a good suggestion.
And Palmer will be on the east side. When they sidewalk.
Palmer will be on the east side
So-
from Hotz to Markham. And we're currently working on Cross on the east side, so if we put it on the south side of Markham, they'll have to cross at Cross or cross at Palmer. Somewhere they're going to have to cross. So that's something that we're open for discussion on. This is just a preliminary list draft. So residents in the area would be glad to hear your input, and this can change. But like I say, this is just a draft and our first thought out of the box.
I've got a perspective question. You know, money is the answer to all this. You got 792, and you said other wards have to have funding also. Would you guess that we're going to have 30% funded, 50% funded, 70% funded? What scale are we dealing with here?
Well, we're looking at, currently we're funded $500,000 to $600,000 a year with sales tax money. With the new state highway bond money, they're going to give additional funding to the city of Fayetteville. And our understanding, the mayor is going to give a lion's share of that funding to the sidewalk program. So we're anticipating funding going up to $1.2 million, $1.2 to $1.3 million per year.
So if I divide by 4, we're going to have about 400,000 maybe to apply to workforce sidewalks, roughly.
Yes, sir.
So we're talking about half the which last spend.
The money may not be the entire problem. Construction time, manpower time. Currently, I've got a 9-man crew that builds sidewalks. We're, of course, using contractors to supplement that. But currently, we're doing a lot of the prep work, excavation and sub-base preparation, and contractors are pouring the concrete. So even with additional funding, I don't know if they're going to triple the funding basically, but I cannot triple my production that quickly or cost effectively.
More dependent upon potentially contractor, us doing, again, 3 times the money doesn't necessarily mean 3 times the linear feet, just because of the prohibitions, as Keith said, with personnel. But
So what we're gonna ask for from the council is ranking these priority 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we may look at 5 or 6 from each ward to being our 2014 program. And then the rest of these fall subsequent years. There again, I think time and manpower is gonna be a more limiting factor than money. We're looking at this extra funding for approximately 4 years, I believe. So it's really not effective to add more people to city staff for a short period of time, so we're looking at contracting additional work. So our money's not gonna go quite as far.
And I think since I got on the council in 2010, I was on the street committee, and so every year we got a list on the street committee, and mainly we knew that all we were going to really be doing is trying to fix some of the existing sidewalks that were dangerous and need to be fixed, and try to go in around our schools. That was sort of the goal for the first 2 or 3 years I was on the council. And then this year, because of the additional funding, we were told that we were going to be asked to have some input in this additional funding, like kind of more of a wish list, because we've got some money now. And so that's why you're probably seeing this for the first time at a board meeting, because in the past we really, so the other night when Alan and I learned that we were going to be asked, or was to be asked, then Terry to come, and he said, so that's why this is kind of at this meeting, because of the additional funding. It's going to be very nice to have, but we wanted to get input from the people in the board instead of us. Just some of these are things that we have recommended. I know a couple of these you've recommended, some have been on my list for a while, but so this will be the first time to really just come out and say, please hear it tonight and listen, and give questions and comments tonight, and then email us and call us and let us know what you're thinking after you get back out on the streets, because I'm looking for help here.
Nothing will help for us.
Absolutely.
A lot of times we'll hear requests from people, and then we'll hear 10 requests from other people who do not have a sidewalk there. So I have to, it's hard to kind of balance that, and that's one reason we kind of wanted to talk about it tonight, and get some good feedback.
That's true with this list. It may be only one person sending a request. And maybe one over here, 10 people call in. We don't give that any rating on this. It's just if there was a request, it's on this list.
Do you think any of the priorities will be impacted because of the university and the growth and coming up with the map of the county down pieces? Does that fit into prioritizing as well, perhaps?
It certainly helps with some of the goals, how wide the sidewalk is, the connections in that border of the county down the border of the neighborhood area. It doesn't control it, and neither do we. One of the things I think I'd like to pass on is that we'll have input, like you'll have input, and we'll push on the things that we want our citizens to know most, but the experts in the city and the staff are making decisions about where they're going to go, and engineering, based on engineering and based on connectivity that we don't. So I think it gives us some direction, and certainly sets out some goals for us to be. The width of the sidewalks, for example, in this planning area could be different than it is in other. I think you may want to add to that.
I would just add that it will help, because it just increases the communication, and I thought it was really interesting. I didn't know this before I came on the council, the way they look at where they're going to put sidewalks. They use the city's GIS program to look at where they're missing and try to get one side of the street first, and so that can work in conjunction.
And I know you can't see this, and hopefully if you choose to and would like to, you could come up and take a closer look at it. But he had our asked our GIS information tech to prepare this map, and with respect to your question about the U of A and or otherwise, but you'll see these more darkly shaded areas. We looked at population density and connectivity. Rhonda talked about schools and connections to schools. So that's a big component in here on this legend. You'll see this shading relevant to the numbers and population. So we're looking at that walkable, connected area, and with that broader, that broader plan of citywide connectivity.
To follow up on Tom's question, do each of the other three wards have a similar wish list?
Yes.
And are they comparable to this, and can we get copies of them as well?
I didn't bring any with me tonight, but we can get you copies, yes, sir.
Okay. But they're fairly comparable, or one of them?
Ward 1 and Ward 2 are the heavier list because it's the older part of town, fewer sidewalks. Some of them, Ward 3 area have more sidewalks and there's less demand there. Ward 4 has a lot of new development. It's kind of a mixed bag. There's several areas, older areas in Ward 4 also. But if you look on the outer western edge of Ward 4, some of the newer developments, they have off sidewalks there.
I can definitely email you that.
Okay.
Will.
Yeah, I have somewhere a list of how much sidewalk we have in Ward 4 compared to the other wards, and it's more, and it's because it's often driven by development, and so you build a house, build a subdivision, you're made to put in those sidewalks, and so, yeah, we know we have more than our fair share according to just existing new sidewalks, right? More than not our fair share, but more than it looks when you spread it all out. It looks like we have a huge amount compared to others.
The street footage compared to the sidewalk footage.
There you go, that's what it is.
A larger percentage of sidewalk and foot of street than some of the older wards 1 and 2.
And we have some sidewalks that don't go anywhere because of development. Somebody built something and there it starts and there it ends and it doesn't connect, and so that's one of the things I think I've been trying to look at as I've had input.
And there's a few projects on this list that are fill in between gaps that will make a long connection. Salem Road out there is a prime example. It's hard to see this far away, but there's 4 little gaps that when we fill those, you've got over a mile of sidewalk.
Right here.
Is there still the option for developers to give money to parks or something instead of doing the sidewalk? Is that, misremembering something?
There is a part dollar.
Well, in the sidewalk ordinance, if they're building a structure or a home where there is no sidewalks, there's nothing to connect to, they can pay into the sidewalk fund, and then we can utilize that money, it's divided by quadrants. We can utilize that money to build sidewalks in that quadrant, rather than having to spend the money to build 100-foot of sidewalk out in the middle of nowhere. We can take that money and put it into something else and complete a sidewalk connection.
But that's not the parkland dedication. That's two separate.
Okay.
Is there any kind of a map or an index or whatever that shows which sidewalks were built by the city and which ones were built by developers?
I do not have that information, no, sir.
A lot of the ones in Ward 4, especially the ones on the west side of 540, were built by developers and held the housing additions instead of taxpayer dollars.
And we may have some with highway funds or university funds, ultimately, in Ward 4.
Because we have some cost sharing projects.
Continue on.
Do we want to, that's about 20 minutes, or do we want to keep going through the list? Do you want to keep walking through it, or do you see anything on the list that you,
I think y'all get a pretty good
Mr.
feel.
Eilers, there's a list right there on the corner, if y'all want copies of those. How do you feel? Questions, anyone?
You done made enough?
Any other comments that we've got?
The only other question I have is the currently under construction, this 2,700 feet, $188,000, is that already budgeted and spent, what have you, so we,
Yes, sir, we have money in the 2013 budget.
okay, so,
But it's being built, the ground is being like right now.
Yeah.
You got your name in it tomorrow.
wanted to be sure.
I'll write his name in it when I want to.
I assumed that, but I wanted to be sure.
Please don't write mine.
But if y'all relay any comments to us, we'll be glad to modify our list. And then we're gonna look at, for y'all to rank, prioritize ones through 5.
4 or 5 in the next few weeks.
If you could get them to us by next
Yeah.
Monday, December 2nd.
Wow.
If you can, if possible.
Did you all hear that? By next Monday, December 2nd, can you get your comments?
Walt, did you have a?
Alan, the currently under construction is what was started today, right?
Yes.
They're on, Sang.
Thing and also,
Got it all the
yes,
way up.
we started clearing some of the underbrush along through
You know,
those.
I noticed that coming here, and so the sidewalk is going to be on the right-hand side of the road going up?
Yes.
Should be, yes, on the west side of Sang, south side of Hostel.
Good. I'm looking forward to that. I won't get run over
It's
anymore.
going to be very nice.
Yes, that was a very dangerous area.
And this has been on the list, I think Shirley, before me, was trying to get the Halston corner built, and it's an engineering nightmare, I understand. But you have some, I do have an email here, Mr. Archer's not here, but he has let us know that he is hoping for you all to go in on the corner of Halston there, 6 feet or so, yeah, he wants I don't know what you're gonna do there as you come around. Can you tell us a little bit about
Well,
that? He's giving a little more
He's given us some extra right-of-way,
right-of-way.
which is gonna allow us to slope behind the sidewalk rather than build a retaining wall, and have room for green space. We're currently proposing a 6-foot wide sidewalk with a 4-foot wide green space along Hostel Road, and then back sloping behind that.
Will you be redoing the street as you do the sidewalks, or will that stay as it is?
There'll be some street improvement. We're gonna add storm drainage, we're gonna pipe, curb and gutter the side of the street with the sidewalk. So then there'll probably be an overlay after that to tie it all together, so.
Just before you have to come and fix the sewer again.
We'd love to get the water division in there to replace that line before we do the final paving, so that's something we're pushing for.
That's something we talked about at the water and sewer meeting, getting into those pipes while we have the road.
So we're trying to coordinate some of that.
Eric?
Yes, sir. I do have a question. So when you're coming up east, up Hostel, is that spacing going to be the same all the way up? Or is that just going to be on Mr. Archer's land?
We may have to reduce the green space a little bit closer to Cross Avenue. We're going to keep the sidewalk within the existing right-of-way on the properties there at the corner of Cross.
Is that what you wanted to hear?
So we'll probably reduce the green space to make it fit.
Thank you.
And the question, part of your question ties to who maintains the green space, right? And that's what we were talking about earlier, and that comes up a lot. Who maintains the green space? Well, usually the people who live there maintain it, don't they?
By ordinance, technically, the adjoining property owner should maintain the green space.
And if they don't, then it's a code issue.
Tobacco curve.
Okay, Aubrey has a question, and then we'll get his hand up first.
Yes, will there be some, are you taking into account, a lot of that's pretty steep, you're going to, if you increase the speed of runoff anywhere by piping and eliminating the natural ditch or whatever, it may have had some soil in it, and certainly rocks and so forth, and vegetation that would slow the runoff. How can you account for this? What's it going to do downstream on whoever's property it gets to? If it goes down, people trying to get to an outlet somewhere that will.
Well, there'll be one discharge point there just east of Sang under Hostel Road where it currently goes now. We can add some large rocks and riprap or something to try to slow that water down as we discharge it. It's about the only thing I can do with it at this point in time.
Okay, and you,
Where do we send comments to? And it has to be by next Monday, is that?
I bet you'll give us a few more days, won't
If,
you?
right, that's our goal, if we can get input
We
by
might
next
need a
Monday.
few.
So what's the address that we send them to?
If you go to accessfayetteville.org, you can, on the right-hand side of the website, you can click on Wanda's link or my link, and our email addresses are both on there. And
I'll give it to you, but you gotta be
Long.
sharp to stay with me. It's Ward 4,
Yeah.
_ POS 1 or 2 at Fayetteville-AR.gov. Sandra, is that right?
That has changed.
That's my new one, isn't it?
That's our new
Ward 4 _ position 1 at Fayetteville-AR.gov.
Yeah,
Okay.
but the one on the website will not show that yet.
Oh,
think
I
they've
didn't
got
know
it.
that.
I don't think they've got it changed, but it'll still get to them, whichever email address you use right now.
I've been getting them.
444-0518 is my home phone number. Call and leave message there too.
Mine's 304-0585.
Can I sneak in one last question here, please? I'm confused about what you just said about Archer's property. Where is Archer's property
Well,
on Sang? I think of it as being on the east side of Sang.
He's on the south side of Hostel Road, from the corner of Sang, back east towards Cross Avenue.
The south side of Halsell.
Yes, sir. He didn't, there's 2 lots at the corner of Cross Avenue, on the west side of Cross Avenue. There's 2 other lots, 2 other land.
Okay, I'm with you. Got
That's where
it.
they did the lot split.
Got it.
and if you want to see this email that you sent, Scott, that is.
And there, unfortunately, there is some urgency. We've got to collectivize this, render it down, prioritize, and go back to the committee. So, but certainly we won't leave anybody out.
Does anybody see anything here that you just mark off right now? You just say, well, I don't know why that's on there. And does anybody see anything that you would say, wow, please do that? Is there anything that we would just kind of brainstorming here together?
I would say the Markham Road is really important because it's really dangerous. You can't have 2 cars and a pedestrian, and there's no place to walk except for a very deep ditch on the side.
So Markham across Razorback, that one, about
Yeah.
halfway down?
Eventually, you had to stop and wait for a pedestrian to walk for about 3 minutes to continue on that road. And that's the only back way out during the Razorback game.
Probably me. That's great. Anybody else have a?
And the reason also is that when you look at the way traffic flows away from the university, that's the link. They go Markham Cross over the Sang down. That's a thoroughfare.
Yeah, or they go Hot Palmer, Markham.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see that.
That's what I'm saying. That's where I come from.
Right.
What
I mean,
else?
regardless if they hit that spot.
They hit that spot.
I mean, I might have some objection to it being on the north side, and the reasons are several. I mean, of course, that's where the drainage culvert is. Utility lines are over the north side. I live on the north side, and it would just about devastate access to the way my driveway is configured. And it seems, when I look at Markham, and I'm looking across the street, there's only, I believe, 4 houses on the south side of that section. And they all have fairly wide lots, and they all have spacious northern property edges along there. And it seems like it would cause a lot less disruption and be a lot less expensive to build as well. And so, I've always wanted there to be a sidewalk on Markham, and I always assumed, since the other ones, the one that goes up to Pratt Place on the hill is on the south side, and the first couple blocks are on the south side. I always assumed it would be on the south side, but I would have some objection if it were put on the north side, to be honest.
I didn't know that you would think that.
Great input. Anybody else?
I wanted to say Palmer too,
Palmer?
because that's also really narrow, and it leads to Hawks Park from one direction anyway. And so it's something that people walk on.
So it's a high priority.
Yeah.
Deborah, do you start yours in the neighborhood? Or do you see something
Yeah,
there you'd like
I
to
agree.
speak up? Okay.
I agree. There's a sidewalk going in right now at Hot. So, and we've already got one on Markham. So that north-south there is without one. So it doesn't make much sense not to go on with that, and especially if the extension of Markham is going to become a priority. And then there's one going in across, and so that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Well, I want to say that the hot sidewalk, I thank you all. I've been working on that for a long time, and I've talked to a few people on Hawks who say you all have been fabulous about communicating with them, getting the driveways back, working to get it back in order, keeping it nice and clean. I've taken pictures along the way. Thank you. Great work on that, and I think it's going to be a wonderful improvement. It's never fun while it's under construction. Made it as good as it can be, according to the people I've talked to on Hawks.
There has been minimal disruption on Hawks.
Thank you. All right. Beth, city staff anyway. Thank you.
Thanks all very much.
All right. 35, Mike Johnson. And anybody else who wants to get going,
We can leave this so that at any point later on,
Great. Very nice. Thank you for bringing copies, and we'll get back with you.
Right, just let us know, and like I say, we're open to any feedback, or any suggestions. The reason we're here, can get, thoughts.
The day I get the emails, I'll forward it on.
And if you have people watching the recording who live out Salem and the areas of maybe people who aren't here tonight, we sure hope you'd love to hear from them too. Thanks, guys. Mike, no pushback.
Told him west side of Oliver.
West side of Oliver, okay.
We brought five of our team tonight. Not really quite sure what was going to be on everybody's minds. Steve Gahagan's University Police. He introduced himself. He's been the director for 5 years now. Flo Johnson's the executive director for University Housing, so she's been trying to keep up with our housing challenges out there as we've grown and across the board at the university. Gary Smith, probably the easiest job on campus, parking and transit. And I tell you, I've never seen Gary upset much. And then Jay has been in facilities management for over 25 years, thereabouts. 23. I'm aging here. But campus planning and capital projects. So he does all of our land use, development, master planning, all the different types of master planning we've done. What I thought I'd do is I'd do a couple of things and then go to a couple of parking issues. And one thing I don't have enough for everybody, but if you just sort of take a look and pass them around, I wasn't sure that you all have seen the transportation coordination boundary that came out of the town in the first year of the town and gown meeting. And there were some misconceptions in some of the folks that were looking at that. I can get you more copies, or I can get Alan and Rhonda electronic copies. I think it's also up on a website with the city. But the green, the outer boundary, is the outer boundary of the transportation coordination area. When you come into that central area and you see a red boundary, that's the campus's land use development boundary. That boundary's been in place probably 8 to 9 years and been published, been talked about. That is the university trying to communicate to the neighbors where our outer boundary is, and that we are doing our best in 90% of the cases to grow within that boundary, to not move horizontally into intact neighborhoods. Most of those are streets, so that we stop at a street. The one exception is kind of the northeast area, where it's up on top of the hill at Garland and Maple, where it kind of falls off to the northeast with topography. And that boundary is a little less straight and doesn't necessarily follow trees, or follow streets. We have stuck to this pretty much the last 8 or 9 years. We believe, and Jay's planning corroborates, that we can increase density on the core campus by going up, by putting larger buildings in place of smaller, less efficient buildings,
and increase green space at the same time. And I think if you've gone across campus periodically over the last 4 to 6 years, you've noticed a change in the campus. And what Jay and his team and what the grounds team has been doing, what the entire campus team has been doing, is to improve the exterior appearance of the campus and the landscape, while going up and while renovating existing buildings. We have, in fact, had a focus in the last 5 years or so, 5 to 6, on higher utilization of classrooms, labs, offices, space. A lot of our space was in pretty bad shape. So we've added the latest technology, we've painted them up, we've changed furniture, we've done different things, and we are using those spaces at a much higher utilization rate, both during the day and in the evening between the 6 and 10 o'clock time frame. We were building buildings that we really didn't need at that time, or building spaces in buildings that we didn't really need at that time. So we've increased our utilization, we're kind of trying to stay just in time as far as we grow. 25,365 students this fall, probably growing in the neighborhood of 28,000 by the fall of 17. We have capped traditional first-time freshmen at around 4,500, plus or minus, and we've done that for the last 3 or 4 years. So our growth is in higher retention, freshman, sophomore, sophomore, junior, junior, senior, larger numbers of transfer students, community college transfers and graduates with associate degrees, more graduate students. We went into the very high research category about 3 years ago, 3 to 4 years ago, and we're one of 108 institutions in the country that have that categorization. And there are over 4,500 2- and 4-year public and private schools in the country. So I'm bragging. It's your institution, it's your university, and they've done a great job. Part of this is the town and gown. It's been in place for a little over a year now, about, made up of university representatives, city staff representatives, one member of the council, at-large community members. There's a traditional student living in town that's on that group, representing students that live off campus. And we're kind of wrapping up that first year, and we're looking at some of our accomplishments and what we've done. This green boundary and everything in it, you'll see on the bottom right-hand corner as you're looking at that, if it's passing around still, those are the things we're looking at. You'll notice in there it's sidewalks, streets, it's safety, it's security, it's pedestrians, it's vehicular traffic, it's lights, street lights. Looking at main pedestrian flows. It also, we've looked at events, special events, home football games, one of your topics, Ward 4, especially the ones that live in closer to campus. Basketball games, baseball is a little less invasive and that sort of thing. So, the town and gown, this communication tool that we've developed in those areas, that's a higher level of focus. If we have students anywhere in the community, anywhere in the county, anywhere in the region, we're concerned about them. But this area is where the highest concentration is, so we need to spend time there. Now, running through campus, this is the core campus, our central grounds. We also have more property north, which is Division of Ag primarily, and more property south, which is Baum, Tyson, the athletics facilities, and the growing research and technology park. And we dedicated the improvement of Cato Springs Road today from school to Razorback, a 3-lane section, a 10-foot wide trail on the north side, and that'll link into some other trails that are going to be built in that area over the next few years. So we've also partnered with the city on trails. We've got a couple pieces on campus. So that's very important. Some of the sidewalks talked about tonight are in those areas, and some of the questions about prioritization in that area. And I think that first and foremost, what a lot of the sidewalks looking at are K-12, getting kids to school and getting them there safely. But this general pedestrians, walkers, college students, they fall into that priority, and there are more and more here as we look at alternative transportation. Bikes are a big thing. Scooters are a big thing. We have over 1,300, Gary, registered. You know, we have bicycle parking, scooter parking, motorcycle parking, ADA parking, regular car parking. We even have electric vehicle parking and those are growing. So a lot of good things there. I only brought one copy, but Razorback Road widening. The section from MLK to the south was done maybe 6-7 years ago. That's the one that goes down to 15th Street. Treed median, trees on the side, sidewalks on both sides, 10-foot sidewalk, I think on both sides on that section. The Garland Maple intersection north to Weddington North Street was done in 02-03 time frame. Treed median, trees on the side once you get to Cleveland, not as many trees going down towards Weddington and north. Well, then we have the middle link, and the missing link has been sitting there. We've been writing white papers, we've been looking for money. We had about $1 million for about 6 or 7 years. This new half-cent sales tax, some other things, our growth, our 2010 census, there's money now going to the regional planning, who is now a metropolitan planning organization. They have money to allocate. We received $2.6 million, federal money, city match, and the university has some match in there, plus the university owns all of the property between MLK and Garland Maple, with the exception of one parcel, and that's the mosque on the corner of Center and Razorback. So we are dedicating the additional right-of-way to go to 4 lanes and the cross-section. The standard cross-section, and I'll pass this around, but the standard cross-section, starting from right to left, looking north off MLK, is a little bit of green space, 10-foot sidewalk, 10-foot green space with trees, 4 11-foot lanes, 10-foot green space with trees, a 6-foot sidewalk, and a little more green space. That's about 83 feet sidewalk to sidewalk as you look at that. It will go between the 2 fences at the gardens and the intramural fields, barely. So it's going to move through there. But that is the cross-section all the way up Razorback. It's going to be a little tight between the stadium and parking, and there's going to be a significant amount of retaining wall, starting right about across the street from the indoor training facility and running all the way past the Alumni Center. Varying heights. The bridge will be removed and then put back in place, coming from that upper parking lot into the upper levels of the stadium. As you make the turn onto Maple and head for Garland and Maple, the 10-foot sidewalk will be on the south, and it will be at the curb. 6-foot sidewalk will be on the north, but it'll have a sidewalk from Poultry Science to Razorback Road. It'll also have 4 11-foot lanes, and then it goes into the Garland Maple intersection where it'll have a left turn lane and some other things in that area.
Mike, well, the sidewalks just got built from Meadow North on the stadium side all comply?
Yeah, yes. I say that hesitantly because we've thought they complied twice or 3 times now in a couple places, and they've changed their design. But we believe the curbs, the trees, and the sidewalk all fits into the overall geometry. In fact, some of the sidewalk by the outdoor track also fits into that geometry as well. And then as you come south, that piece to the west of Bud Walton will have to be moved to a line, and then the sidewalk will pick up, and we'll end up with sidewalks all the way to MLK. Phase 1, from MLK going north to Leroy Pond, and coming south from Nettleship to MLK, is funded and is under construction. The under construction piece right now is utility relocations. The actual construction on the roadway probably won't happen until March, April. Most of that should be done in 2014. If there's anything beyond 14, it'll probably be late winter, early spring of 15. We'll get the utilities relocated hopefully by February, and there's a bunch. And then as you go north, you'll be able to, right lane will only be able to turn on Leroy Pond. Leroy Pond will be widened so there's a left turn lane and a right turn lane. Leroy Pond is designed to eventually become a four-way intersection. By removing or by moving the intramural field fence, you can take the street through and then curve it up, and it becomes Graham to the west of University Police. Already has a signal warrant approved, so the signal lights are approved for Leroy Pond and Razorback, they're approved for Meadow and Razorback, and they're approved for Razorback and Maple. So there will be signals on all three of those intersections. Phase 2 just got approved. Phase 2 starts at Maple Garland and goes west to Maple Razorback with a signal at Maple Razorback. This Phase 1 has that signal at Leroy Pond and Razorback as well. Phase 2 is about $3 million, and we have to start utility work before 30 September of 2014, or risk losing the money. So we're going to be working on both ends a little bit, but the south end ought to be pretty well along before the north end starts, and most of the north end will be the summer of 15, not the summer of 14. All the football schedules and the basketball schedules and all of that are provided in the contract. We'll work around. Normally, AHTD's been pretty good about keeping 2 lanes open. Maybe a little rough 2 lanes, but keeping 2 lanes open. And doing one side and then working on the other, much like they've done from Weddington North out Garland towards Melmar and the farm. We're excited. The missing link is still missing, and that's about $6 million, and that's the piece by the stadium. And I think the pressure will grow to fund that, whether it's AHTD, whether it's a regional planning group, whether it's a combination. There's some additional utilities, water and sewer, on that stretch that will also have to be done. We're trying to do all the utilities that are in bad shape, do it before we get it in, and go back and tear it out. But I think it's exciting. It's been talked about for 10, 20 years, about widening it. We will probably run that. Right now it's 25 mile an hour all the way to Maple Razorback, and it picks up to 35 to MLK and then 40 south of MLK. We'll probably push real hard to reduce that to 30 with 4 lanes of traffic, with a number of pedestrians and that sort of thing. Now, I'll pass this around. There's also left turn lanes at Meadow, Razorback, 12-foot left turn lanes inside the 4 11-footers. The green space will narrow so that the sidewalks stay straight, but the road will widen out a little bit to accommodate left turns going both ways.
Are these online?
No. We're waiting for the final AHTD design. Yes, sir.
Where will be the surface crossings between Leroy Pond and Maple? For pedestrians or...
Well, every intersection will have pedestrian crossings. So you'll have Leroy Pond will be pedestrian crossing. There'll be a crossing at Nettleship, right there by the University Police. There'll be a crossing at normally at city street intersections, if there's sidewalks and that sort of thing, there'll be a crossing. Right now there's a bus stop by the outdoor track, and another project we'll talk about tonight, parking west of Razorback. We're looking to move the bus stops into that parking area so the bus can literally pull into that parking area and come back out at Meadow, because the design of this parking west of Razorback, that's the 800 to 900 spaces, makes Meadow a 4-way intersection. It creates Meadow Street to the west of Razorback that then ties in to a new link that'll take Graham running north, kind of go across the creek, and then realign with Thomas Street. So there'll be a parallel street running along Razorback where you can come in at a signalized intersection. But that'll allow the bus to loop out, pick up the passengers in those parking lots to the west of Razorback, and then come back in at Meadow at a left turn signal. I think, Gary, that's kind of how we've been looking at it at this point.
Is there any place to see a visual?
We're going to give you the parking west of Razorback visual. Jay's got the drawings for that. We'll lay it out up here and give you a chance to look at it.
Are the street crossings signalized or anything? I mean, or flashing? Because, it's hard enough to cross Razorback as 2 traffic lanes, but to cross it at 4 traffic lanes,
Understand.
stripes are not enough, you know?
Well, and almost all of our crossings in and around campus, it's striped. If it's not at an intersection, there's one of the mid-block stop warning signs that state law says you have to stop. They're all lit from at least one direction, if not 2, so there's lights with directional floods on the signals. And in the cases of the signalized at Leroy Pond, Meadow, and Razorback, it'll also have signalized intersections. So we're looking at all that. We're also experimenting. Up on Garland, we've actually put in pavement LED lights that are solar powered. And they have to be activated by somebody hitting a button. Well, students don't hit the button as often as they need to, nor faculty nor staff, just to be ecumenical. So we're looking at that. I was in the Florida Keys 2 weeks ago, and I noticed some stop signs that have LEDs embedded around the outside that flash. And we're going to order some pedestrian crossing signs, solar powered, and they have LED lights that flash around the pedestrian signal. So we're going to order some of those for a couple of intersections and test those out. But we keep doing what we think we can do to make sure people are as safe as possible. Unfortunately, people feel like they're safest in a crosswalk. That's when they're most vulnerable. And they don't need to be listening to headphones, they don't need to be texting, they need to be paying attention, and the vehicle drivers need to be doing the same thing. So we're working hard on that. We've invested several $1 million over the last 10 years on crosswalks all around campus, but we're working with the city to try to do things. Right turn areas. Now we've done right turn arrows to stop right turning traffic in a number of areas because they were turning through the crosswalk.
So over the street is not on the table? Across?
No,
What's
not at this point.
Down by the track or anything like that? That's not even?
No.
Anything with the bike routes?
The bike routes, the 10-foot, it's really a combination sidewalk trail, can have bikes, but we've talked to HTD, we've talked with the city, we're looking for the outside lanes to be Sharrow lanes on that whole stretch, up and back, and they're also looking north and south to do Sharrows on that same pieces of street, and they're building some additional trail links that parallel MLK. And we've actually looked at maybe a trail link coming north along the creek that would go into the Razorback Road as well. We're working very closely with the city trails folks as well to make sure we can try to link some things.
That would be nice. The Oak Ridge Trail, I think it is, up by Pomfret.
Right.
So high up that hill, it's almost impossible to get up there from Razorback without
I know.
Being too tired to go any further on the trail.
The 7 Hills of Fayetteville.
Yeah.
We do have
going to the south, like you said, to the one that's south of Razorback.
We're
Martin
eventually,
Luther King there.
we'll take Oak Ridge on through that part of campus, up kind of a loop up by Poultry Science.
Right.
And then you can come back down on the 10-foot sidewalk along Razorback and then tie into the trail going over to Hotz.
Yeah, that would be better too.
So, Jay, do you want to?
Mike, just one more thing. The other night on City Council, we had a vacation with some...
That's what we're going to
is
talk
that coming
about.
up? Good.
Mike, do you want this laid out on the table, or you need to table
Well,
it on that?
Can we take it up?
And if anybody needs a copy of the vacation, it's the second one from the left there.
Wanda, thank you for the paper.
We don't want to carry your... Oh, this one.
Look here, Alan, this is better.
while you're doing that, I would just comment that one of the things you can't solve, I don't think, is the jaywalkers on Meadow Street. You know, you got some crosswalks there for students going to Hyper and Crawford and so forth. And, you know, when I go by about 6:45 in the morning, it's not much of a problem. If I go about 7:30 on,
Cutting across.
they're just everywhere.
You know, we were only able to convince HTD of one crosswalk by the Garland complex, the Garland Retail and Garage. And a couple of us literally took some HTD folks up and set in the parking lot up above by HOTS and watched faculty, staff, students, parents run across the street and jaywalk, and they finally let us, after they made us give up five parking spaces, parallel parking spaces for line of sight, they let us put in that second crosswalk. And we embedded the flashing lights in both those crosswalks.
Right.
And got them to lower the speed to 20, or make sure everybody knew the speed was only 25 through there, even though people, as they make the turn going north, they're accelerating. And they're probably 30, 35 coming around here. This is just a larger drawing. It's the same thing that's on the one passing around when you look at the dark. The light blue is property owned by the university. And the area we're talking about is this area down here with the yellow lines around it for west of Razorback parking. That has been in our purchase target for the whole 8 or 9 years that this land use development has existed. And it's always been there, and we'll leave these up here and let you come up afterwards and take a look, and we'll stay and answer questions. But it's always been in there, and it's been in there for surface parking. We did a transportation master plan in 2005. A piece of that, and a part of it was a partnership with the city, looked at parking decks, structured parking. We looked at the west end of the entertainment district, and a couple of those have been built. And we looked at campus. The first one on campus was Stadium Drive, which is about 586. I keep wanting to add. Right there beside the Arkansas Union, as the intermodal transfer facility up on top. That was the first one on campus. Then the Harmon Avenue Garage was built in the 04, 05 timeframe. 35. And then Garland is 1550. 1501. What happened to the 49? We lost. And then we've got one more, and then we did Meadow. Meadow used to be a surface lot to support Hyper. And Jeff Long, the athletic director, was committed when he relocated the practice fields to keeping that parking underneath the artificial field. And that's about and then they also built some surface parking up by the Fred Smith Football Center as a part of that whole complex. The next target, Gary, is
either the northeast garage, the expansion of Harmon Avenue garage with the Executive Hotel and Conference Center, or both if we can afford it.
So the northeast garage, that's something to the north of Maple, probably in that Maple, Whittam, Douglas, Gregg, somewhere in that area. We've talked to the city a little bit about it, and they might consider taking Gregg and linking it to Cleveland. Right now it goes to Douglas, so that you would have, a lot of the time, what we're trying to do is move the parking away from the core campus, because pedestrians are more and more taking over that area and trying to keep it safe. But also make sure we're feeding it from streets that are sized to be able to allow the traffic to come and go and get people back away, not using side streets and that sort of thing to get to the parking garages. Now, students will go or any driver will go where any driver wants to go on public streets. But if we try to make it easy so that they take the ones that handle the traffic, most times people will do that. Parking west of Razorback. Let me get oriented here. Razorback Road. Jay, if I'm screwing it up, let me know. Meadow Street coming in right here, and it will come into a four-way intersection here. This is the current testing center. and the mosque is right here. This is Center Street. This is Graham Street, which parallels Razorback. Jay has colored in some existing houses, but this is the a little apartment complex that we have several functions in, and then this is the computer center, University Police down here on Nettleship. This is designed for parking. This is already parking out here. This is already parking in this area. These, the blue ones, are houses that were demolished to create the gravel parking areas that are there now, that are accessed off Brenda, Court, and Walton, which are all dead ends, and we own all the property on all sides. There's still a couple of houses left up here. Eventually, from Hotz all the way down and over to our boundary would be parking, low impact development, trees, hard surface, sidewalks on these, sidewalks here, sidewalks here, sidewalks up here, sidewalks on the south side of Hotz. Well lit, safe, providing a street that parallels Razorback, but you can come in at a signalized intersection and be able to make turns. We're also looking for the transit to be able to loop in here, to be able to have the transit stops on the west side of Razorback so they're not all crossing Razorback like they do now. And the ones that want to go to Hyper here on Meadow will be a signalized intersection with the crosswalks on both sides of the street. Right now, there's about 495 or so gravel parking spaces. Plus or minus? The ultimate design is 800 to 900. But we're going to cross the creek. We're going to clean up and work over the creek, much like we've done on the one on campus in the gardens. We've had some partnerships with some NGOs and some cooperative money, including city money, because part of this is keeping sediment out of the West Fork of the White River. It's going to be a nice area. We have a designed building here. This is a hard surface, this is gravel, but it's not happening probably anytime soon. We originally were trying to bid this spring, but it looks like it's going to slip to summer of 15. But in the meantime, we'll keep it cleaned up. The streets right now are open. The parking blocks, and the bumpers, the signage, and all of that. They are still public streets, but those are the three pieces of street that we've asked to vacate. As we complete the final design, the plan is to dedicate this street length and that street length back to the city of Fayetteville as a street. If you look at the rough acreage, it's maybe a quarter or a half an acre difference. I don't think it's too much more than that. They're not happening at the same time, and our design is not yet finished. And this is going to be a bid project, but probably now bid in the winter of late 14, early 15.
Which two streets was it that you have done as a rededication?
It would be linking Graham to Thomas, and would be an extension of Meadow. Now, we haven't finished the design, and that's our plan, but that's where we're looking.
Mike,
What's the street at the top?
That's hot.
And then, so this is down here.
This is center.
Okay.
So what's on?
And you're not showing that going all the way to Markham?
No.
Over.
The north-south, the one that...
Well, this
doesn't show
Thomas
up.
exists up here.
Right, and it goes up to Markham and dead ends.
Right.
Yeah.
It's an existing street.
Right.
All we're doing is tying into an existing street.
Yeah, but if Hotz is at the top of your map, then it does continue on up to Markham.
It continues, a lot of streets go this way, they go this way, they go this way. We
Right.
only showed the immediate area, we didn't show the whole.
Right.
One thing that's, what's on the city council agenda, and I kind of wanted to point out, just so everybody kind of knows, you've got Brenda, which is right here, which is a little cul-de-sac. You've got Court, which is right here, which is a little cul-de-sac, and you've got Walton, which is here, and that's a cul-de-sac. And so that's...
And there's also one alley.
And that little L-shaped piece of property that...
There's a little alley.
At the top. I mean, that's used as a driveway right now. And that's on the city council agenda as a vacation of the city's right-of-way, but since that's publicly owned land, that's one reason I wanted to hold it, bring it to the Ward 4 meeting, and just see how people here felt about it.
Would you like a reaction?
Yes.
I think that tying that in with Thomas is an open invitation for every student that parks anywhere in there to come in off of the main east-west road to the north, down Sang, across Halsell, down Cross, down Markham, down Thomas, right past my driveway, into this parking complex.
Absolutely, that's the only way
I
they come that way
I
now.
personally do not like tying that into Thomas.
That'll be the cut through, yeah. I think that's...
That, unless there is some serious traffic moderating action taken by the city to discourage that route and to encourage people to use the state highway to get down to the entrance that comes off Razorback.
So at the public input meeting for the state, for the, our fire department, when we were at the high school, you were there, Deb, you were there. I guess at that meeting, I did not really understand what part of this plan has to do with the state highway. I didn't hear the presentation there, but this parallel street to the state highway.
This has nothing to do with the state highway widening. It's just another project within what's going on, because the state highway is not going to be widened here. It's not funded. Eventually, it will be.
That's the $6 million.
So the plan here that you're discussing is a university design plan.
Correct.
So I know, and Darrell, you'd probably like to talk about this better than I can, but I know one of the concerns you had is how, at one point, the residents worked hard to keep those parking lots from exiting on the west side to help prevent exactly what I think you're talking about. And this changes that.
There are no exits on the west side. They're using public streets.
There are no exits on the west side? But, so we're
Well,
talking
sure.
about that.
There are exits on the west side of the lots that face onto Razorback.
Up here?
No. On your map, there are exits out of those parking lots onto that extension of Thomas.
Are you looking at up here, Bill?
Yeah, you
Right up here?
to move them, I mean, part of Fayetteville's challenge is there's no connectivity in a lot of places for traffic to be able to, for neighbors, for me to be able to move in some of my areas.
Well,
I have a lot of people cut through on Fletcher between Lafayette and Dixon Street.
I am opposed to sacrificing the peace and quiet on Thomas to the cause of connectivity.
We'll continue to work with the city on design, connecting to Meadow and picking up pedestrians and not forcing them across the street and coming out at a left turn lane makes a lot of sense from a safety perspective, from a flow perspective. But we'll continue to work with the city. I mean, we don't have to dedicate the streets.
Well, as kind of a question that ties in with that, what would the conversation be like to close off Thomas, to not have that open back up onto Thomas?
Well, we just have to look at design. You still have to move around in a parking lot to get in and out. There are parking lots all the way up here. Closing this off is there's still traffic going to drive up and back on those parking lots that are north of Hotz.
Yes.
The next street up is Markham,
Yes.
and then lot 72 and 73, and they've been there longer than I've been here.
Thomas dead ends into Markham. That's, you know what,
That's the
not on the
next
top.
street up.
House.
So,
That's the bottom side,
this improved connected road that you have running parallel to the 4-lane Razorback that we'll have, dead ends at Markham.
And for one, how wide is Thomas? I mean,
It's
hard
not
to
very
imagine
Thomas is
that-
about 16 feet wide.
Yeah.
Very.
Thomas is a very narrow
It's hard to
street
imagine that it
And
could.
between
it goes
Hotz
to
and Markham.
Yeah.
And stops.
I doubt it. It's probably wider than 16 feet.
I
hardly
don't think
need a
so. You
car
cannot
on it.
park two cars.
No.
You really,
No,
you
you
have,
can't.
y'all need to probably
Well, I've
look at
driven on it before, I just,
Yeah.
And it stops at Hotz. It only runs between Markham, which is up there, and then Hotz there. So
It feels a little
the
bit
big
like a
change
college.
here is also connecting all of that to Grant and all, every bit of that. That, it doesn't connect right now. So you're gonna, you know, have
well,
a,
all of these connect, the housing in here connects to Grand. We can work with the city and,
Yeah, if you would, that would be,
because this really does need to happen so that the people, you can get transit onto the right side of the street and be able to come out at a signalized intersection for a left turn.
What you're showing there where it comes out onto Razorback, I'm very much in favor of.
yeah.
We can look and see what we can do on flow. Because it's still under design. We're in design development, so about in the middle part of design.
And they do need a place to park, and Razorback will be busier, but having what we can do to contain it going out onto Razorback instead
Well,
of back into the
and-
neighborhood, this would be the time to think about trying to contain that instead of expanding it.
For better or for worse, there's an active access management program on all state highways. There's about 22 entrances onto Razorback Road between MLK and when you get to Garland Maple. We're trying to take that down to about 10 and use the city streets as the point, not have all these driveway entrances and that sort of thing. So
that's the piece I was trying to remember from that input session that we were, and I understand that there's people who have studied this and know how to manage access up and down, but when it lands in somebody's driveway, you know, then that's something we really need to be absolutely sure there's no other option.
We'll work with the city on this piece up in here.
Good, that'd be
And then
really great.
see how we can
Good.
work the overall flow. The low impact development, trees, lighting that doesn't shine into the neighbors' yards. We've talked about fences. A couple of folks were talking today about green fences. Get some of our sustainability people involved, instead of using wooden slatted fences, to use some type of a green fencing, especially along where the creek is and some of those areas. So we're trying to be a good neighbor, trying to be sustainable. That's one of our stated goals in the university.
One question I have, and I wasn't able to watch the last few meetings, but the town zone committee, has this already gone there?
Yes.
This has already gone through?
Now, the final design,
Subcommittee.
the final design wasn't there, but this is kind of where we are on that rough design. And we'll work with the city street people, really, so the engineer and the transportation folks.
At this point, is that seen as one level parking? It's not a...
Yes, it's all surface parking, not structure.
And is this a lot that would be vacated in athletic events?
Gary, you're looking at non-traditional or traditional commuters?
So athletics would use it for
Probably for basketball and definitely for football.
So what is the transition area going to be between on the west side there and on the north side as you get into University Heights neighborhood, between the parking? Up at the top there, that little rectangle, that's my property there.
Here?
Yeah. So what's the is there a berm or trees?
We're looking at some combination of wooden fencing, green fencing, tree, shrubbery, that type of thing. You want something that's enough of a barrier that people aren't using it for a walking cut through and that sort of thing. But we don't necessarily want to throw up chain link fence. Wooden slat stockade fencing, but again, if we can come up with some kind of green fencing, some type of
hedge or
layered
evergreen
use
hedge.
of trees and evergreen, something like that. So it, it looks nice on both sides, but somebody can't cut through it.
And the plan now is that would end at Markham on the north end. Thomas to Wickham, just like it does now. Thomas ends at Markham.
As shown here, Thomas is as it exists between Hotz and Markham.
Right.
We're not, this is already parking up here.
Right.
So our project is only this area.
It is parking one of the lots, one of the ones that was sort of the first one to go in on Hotz in that area. It only goes out to Razorback Road, and the neighborhood association worked long and hard to have that happen, but then the one on top of it that's north of the, well, it's off at Thomas, but there's two lots. There's one sort of that is down by Hotz.
It's talking about 73.
Yeah, I don't, I'm not sure of the
exit on
numbers.
the Thomas, 73A, the smaller lot to the south, there's not,
Right.
On the Razorback.
Right, and that was the first one that happened, and then the other one that goes out onto Thomas, so, I guess I'm just trying to get a picture of, right now, if this happened and that road was connected, it would still end at Markham. There's no other plan north of Markham to take this road up to, what would be the next, Maple, I guess would be the next one.
No, the property ownership and topography, it just becomes very challenging to try to do anything like that. And it wouldn't, that's not our intent to run that road up, because there's a road just above it in the neighborhood that,
I mean, if Thomas dead ends at Markham,
Right.
it doesn't connect to Markham, right?
It does.
Oh, it does connect to
You
Markham?
go out on Markham and you go right to Razorback, you go left into the neighborhood and
It's
hit Thomas
a
Avenue.
little misleading to say that Thomas dead ends at Markham, because
Right.
if
You
you
can't
take
turn
a jog,
Oh, yeah.
then you pick
That's
up
where the
Hornsby,
traffic will go.
which goes in the direction of the
I'm
top
not
of the
trying to
hill.
mislead you. so-
No, I'm not saying you are trying to mislead you, I'm concerned that we're misleading you. But Hornsby dead ends,
And if it
close
did,
to
they
the
would
top of
have
the hill.
also-
Yes, that's toward Maple.
Barbara's, that's
yeah,
right.
and that's in the direction of Maple, and there's property up there blocking. I think you would have to destroy houses.
We're not,
Well, you don't have the authority to do it, so I'm not accusing you. What I'm saying is that would have to be part of the plan if the intent were to go farther north than Markham.
But doing what you're talking about doing here, when people coming out of this new parking area onto Thompson, they're gonna either turn right or left there at
this is hot.
Hotz, or they're gonna go on up to Markham and turn right or left.
Which is what they do quite a bit now.
Right.
But we put 900 more spaces that goes out west into the neighborhood instead of saying you've got to go out on Razorback.
And if you remember when I was talking about Leroy Pond, we've looked at some designs to take Graham down and move it over to Leroy Pond, so it would make it a lot easier for people to go to another signalized intersection at Leroy Pond. And again, trying to get people to either go south to hook up with MLK or go further south on Razorback, or to move over and then go up Razorback.
That's the kind of thinking I'd like to encourage.
I mean,
Encourage them not to go into the neighborhood, but to go out onto Razorback or down onto MLK.
And if we can provide the signals and provide the ease and move the traffic that way, then I think they're gonna use it 9 times out of 10 instead of sneaking through the neighborhood to a degree. Now, we're making those nicer roads with sidewalks and that sort of thing.
Now, there's no light at Markham and Razorback intended, is it?
No.
But for sure, when you don't let people go into the neighborhood and they go up Cleveland, they go up Razorback, they get to Cleveland, where some other neighbors live, and then they turn left on Cleveland, and so,
Absolutely.
yeah, I mean, we've got
We have traffic
neighbors,
calming on
you
Cleveland
know.
now.
Yeah.
We have a three-way stop, that's the Beverly three-way stop.
Yeah.
That was my next comment, Rhonda.
That sure has helped.
Yeah.
I love it, love it, love it.
Please do not repair Markham.
Don't repair Markham. Well, it is 7:25, and I hate to cut this off, except that we've got staff that leaves at 7:30, and
One other area, since Archie is here, the former Sunshine Apartment. We have demolished those, we have put in gravel. There was another area that's a little slow, but it's going to get gravel. We were looking to pave that. We're looking at low-impact development, lights, about 225 spaces.
Gary.
I'm going low now. We are going to continue to develop that, but that probably is going to slip a year for hard surfacing and trees and all that. We're still looking at low impact. We're still looking at all those features that go with it, lights. It's lit now. The students that live in Ott's Maple Hill, the quad are parking up there. That moves some up from the lot 44, the pit, and moves some from 72, 73. But the plan, about the same time that we would bid the parking west of Razorback, we'd also bid the parking there just off Cleveland and Hall.
And what's caused that to move back a year?
Funding.
Very good. Yes, one
Just have a quick question. Have you considered cost comparisons between permeable surfaces in the parking lot as opposed to all the extra runoff and drainage?
We've done a lot of that, looking at permeable concrete, permeable asphalt. You end up essentially building a system with the ability that water can go, and you actually have catchment in a lot of these. And if you get a lot of rain, and you're looking at some other way to drain it from those lower levels. There's also some maintenance. We've been following Walmart a lot. They've been doing it in a number of locations. We've used grass pave in the gardens. The L-shaped tailgating area is structured grass, so that it'll take fire truck up to a fire truck. We have up by Maple Hill, we have grass paved, so a fire truck can put its outriggers out for the high rise. So we've been experimenting with different things. What we're looking up there is more bioswales and some other areas. We've also found, you notice there's an asphalt lane down the gardens now. A combination of a lot of vehicles, and it's not made to do that, but even worse, with no sidewalk, there's tens of thousands of people that walk through that, and the grass pave just wasn't made to hold up to that. If we get the sidewalks out on Razorback, we can go back and maybe relook that. But we're looking at any number of features. We're aware of the city's LID manual. Steve Luoni and the Community Design Center did one of the first low-impact development manuals. We've also got that, and we're using that.
I'd like to make a couple of comments, Mike. One is I'm very pleased to see the university providing parking for its students. This takes the pressure off our neighborhood streets. And secondly, I'm overjoyed to see the trees that you put in your parking lots. I think that parking lot down on MLK and Razorback, the big parking lot, that's an attractive parking lot from the street.
Jay in his 23 years here is somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000 trees planted.
Good trees.
And he has an inventory. He can show you every species and how many. But, it's been great. Thank you very much. We have a great team.
Real quick before we wrap up, I've got a question for Mike, and then I've got a question for everybody here. You'd mentioned that funding was kind of the issue with the Cleveland and Hall area parking lot. It seems like you're taking on an additional project. Is the additional project part of the funding problem?
What additional project?
This project that we just...
This project will be predominantly funded by athletics. And being very honest,
You're right.
the record is 3 and 8.
No, go there.
There's some cash flow issues.
Mark, you had your hand up, what do you want to?
Yeah, I just wanted to be sure I understood, the parking lot at Hall in Cleveland, you say is gonna slip a year. I mean, we were told originally that it would be the way it is now until next summer it would be paved and what have you. So what you're saying is it's gonna be summer of 15 before it gets paved.
We'll clean it up and look at lighting and that sort of thing. We'll look at drainage to make sure that we're not doing anything as far as that goes. The gravel tends to be more permeable than asphalt and concrete, but we want to make sure the sheet flow is going in the right places.
In that corner, the northeast corner of that lot where the 2 old houses were that you took down, I mean, they're working in there, have been for weeks. I mean, is that gonna be, is that gonna look like the rest of the parking lot ultimately?
Yes, sir. Sooner rather than later. That absolutely is. With the demolition happened later than the apartments, we wanted to get them going for student move-in. Frankly, I'm not exactly sure what happened, but I know that there was a number of us started to kick them in the shins a couple of weeks ago, said, hey, folks, we want it done and ready to go for spring semester. And it looked like heck.
The other house on the southwest corner that you have not demolished, is that gonna stay there indefinitely, or what?
For the foreseeable future, that's property management, and they rent that out, so, and it's in pretty good shape. It's got that big retaining wall.
And trees. Thank you. It's gonna be great to leave it.
Yeah, man, I'm not trying to get rid of it, I'm just curious. What was gonna happen?
Talk to him.
The smoking corner, smoking wall, I know that's not you necessarily, but I mean, it is continuing to be used for smoking. I guess you all have noticed that, so.
It has gotten appreciably better.
It has, I'll admit to that.
Having a lot of people in Hotz Hall that smoke more than others now at the Uptown campus. But we do still have issues on the entire campus perimeter that we're trying to work with the neighbors and the neighborhoods on people who smoke. I've seen buckets out there. I've seen people emptying buckets out there.
Yeah, try to make a little cash off of it, like the football parking, and encourage the smokers to come here.
Either that or what some of us think should be done, which is to
Great idea.
change the law and allow kiosks on campus.
Can I look at that before you
Mike,
roll it up?
yeah, if we leave that out. James, I know you had specific questions about the burn law. Mike, can you give us your email address, and maybe James and Deborah and Mr. Muller, those who are property are really going to be affected by this, could ask to write you?
MRJ03.
I knew it was hard to remember. MRJ.
MRJ,
03.
Michael Ray Johnson, MRJ03 @ uark.edu.
And I know we have to go, but I got to say, thank you to University of Arkansas. Gary Smith, did we start working there in 1978 together? Yeah, 35 years that we've been. Hello, our police, we have a police department here. Thank you. Fabulous police department. I mean, yeah, our UA police department is.
And if you really want to get into planning and all of these, go to Jay.
I would watch somebody born up there, I think. So really, I mean, you all came out and really showed up for us tonight, and I really thank you very, very much. Great job.
Thank you for what you do. I've been pushing our aldermen to have a board meeting here recently.
Maybe we just need you to come to every board meeting and tell us what's going on.
And I think if anyone here has anything to add on this, please email us. Like you said, you were talking to